All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of A Handful of Hope. Today, I am so happy and grateful to have Penny joining us from the Philippines. Penny is a professional coach, Canfield certified trainer in the success principles, and a part-time faculty at De La Salle College of, how do you say that last name?
Benilde.
St Benilde. Penny, welcome,
Yes.
and thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me guest in your program. And I'm honored to be here speaking from the Philippines.
No, it's really incredible, and what I appreciate about this is because you and I were talking off camera, and it's amazing we have technology, we can do this, but you're going through in the Philippines much of what everybody else is going through and everywhere else in the world. People are at home, people are locked down,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's so important to acknowledge because fear runs rampant when we think that we're the only ones going through it, right?
Exactly.
That it's just me and I'm the one suffering alone. But the reality is that all 7 billion of us around the world right now are confined to our homes, are struggling to figure out what we're going to do, uncertain about what's to come. And I think that's so important to acknowledge, just for someone watching this who's in that place of fear, who's in that place of uncertainty, to remember that you're not alone in this.
Yes, exactly. We're not alone in this. We are in the Philippines. We are in enhanced community quarantine, as we call it. It's not a lockdown, but actually it is. But only one member of our household can leave the house, and it's my son. Me and my husband, we can't because we're senior citizens.
Hmm.
So we're not allowed to leave. And it's very difficult for someone who was always out there and now being asked to stay home. So how do I keep myself productive? How do I keep myself helping? How do I help others? So I'm volunteering to do a lot of coaching, a lot of interviews similar to yours. And I'm interviewing people myself and catching up with people and having virtual conversations over coffee. So it's very interesting how things go now.
Yeah. Penny, you were telling me one of the big things that you've been helping people with
Oh,
is
yeah. Mm-hmm.
working remotely, managing teams, which I think here in the US, oh, and around the world too, people are finding that they're having to do that, and they're trying to figure that out really, really quickly right now. I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit. Maybe you have some tools, some strategies that people who are just, whether people are just doing it for the first time or people are having to adapt more with a home base with it. What are some things that people can do with that?
Okay, thank you, Joseph, for that. In fact, in the Philippines, we call ourselves the call center capital of the world. So if you call Expedia, call hotel.com, or you call airlines or Sprint or AT&T, chances are that you'll get the call from the person that you're talking to. It's either from India or the Philippines. And we were asked to take home our laptops, and not even just the laptops, even the desktops. We were given a certain deadline to bring home stuff
Hmm.
and work remotely. And people are not used to that. People would commute all the way to the center and then do their jobs there. But this time is different. So for leaders, how do you manage your team remotely? How do you still maintain that interaction with people? Because as you said, people feel alone now being locked up in their rooms, not knowing what to do. There's a lot of lack of face-to-face supervision. There's a lack of access to information. So what is best? So I do have 3 coaches at the moment who have been put on lockdown. They're working from home. I have one in Hong Kong managing a team in the Philippines. And based on what has been best practice for people who have been working remotely is maintain that connection with your teams. And thanks to Teams, Microsoft Teams, to Zoom, to Skype, they are now able to do that.
Hmm.
Uh, the thing that is very important is the face-to-face interaction. Even like this is a face-to-face interaction. And for teams, it's very important that leaders have that face-to-face interaction, not just once a week, but every day. just daily checks in the morning, check-ups in the morning. How are you? How are you feeling? What we do with our program, what is new and good for you today? Begin with new and good. And at the end of the conversation is, what are you grateful for? So daily checkups in the morning. We also have um, one-on-ones, definitely one-on-ones, perhaps during the week, and daily checkouts, because at the start of the day and the end of the day, because there is an end to a work day. It's not 24 hours.
Hmm.
So with the face-to-face interaction, and I know you know this, that Zoom is burning, quote unquote, because so many people are using Zoom. So it's important that we have those check-ins and check-outs.
Do you feel like, Penny, that's really interesting you say that, because I feel like that's something that people desire so much in the workplace anyways, but it's often something that's overlooked
Mm-hmm.
because we've gotten so busy as a world that you come into work and you're supposed to have your a never-ending task list. You have 1,000 things to do, and if you get 1,000 done, there's 10 more waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really turn off when we leave or anything else. And I feel like so many people want to have that face-to-face interaction, that those touch points with their leadership. And it's so interesting now that here we are removed from each other physically, but then what I'm hearing is that it sounds like what people are valuing the most and what's making teams making these pivots over to managing remotely is the most successful is having those touch points with people.
Oh yeah, that's true. In fact, since my children are here with me, my son and my daughter are here with me, I was listening to the check-ins, town hall meeting of my daughter. She works in one of the bigger airlines in the Philippines. I was listening to the town hall meeting of my daughter and the meeting with the president of the airline.
Wow.
And the president of the airline said, "We've never done this before. We've never had a town hall, or a meeting with me digitally. We're doing this for the first time." So many of us are really doing this for the first time. We don't even say hi to each other at work. We just
Yeah.
go straight. Now I would say we have no choice, quote unquote, because this is the new reality. We said before, it can't be done. We can't work remotely in the contact center. We can't work remotely, but now they are.
Hmm.
So it can be done. This will be the new reality. There will be a paradigm shift in the way we work. And for those, in the Philippines, by the way, there are so many uh, freelancers who work from home. So you may have a digital marketer based in the Philippines or a virtual assistant based in the Philippines. They're so used to this. So this is nothing different for them. But for people who work in the organizations, this is something new.
Do you feel like I just, listening to you talk, I think that's so fascinating because it makes me wonder whenever there's a new normal after this, is there resistance then for people to go back to a physical space, not because it's going back to the physical space, but because they're afraid they'll give up the connection and community they're forming working remotely?
Will they want to give up the physical
So
space?
so it sounds like I love what you're saying about working remotely. These keys are having those check-ins, what's new and good, finishing the day. So there's lots of touch points, right? We're having the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I think in many organizations, it's grossly missed. It's just not like you said, people walk in and they don't even say hello. And I'm wondering do you think when we go back to our new normal, people have the opportunity to return to a physical space? Do you think that they'll resist going back to the physical space because they'll be afraid that they'll give up the what's new and good, the hellos that they're getting in a remote context now?
Uh, I don't think so. I think when this lockdown or this pandemic passes, and this too shall pass, that people will be willing to give more hugs.
Mhm.
Remember our hugs. And people miss each other, the physical contact, the contact of being with people, the handshake, the hugs, the touch, because some people have um, love language of touch.
Yes.
So that is so important as well. We can only give virtual hugs now, because there's no touch now, social distancing. But people will miss that. We're humanity, we're a human race. We will continue to have that. But we will be also in the new reality that we can work from home. So here in the Philippines, we've just been allowed, even before the lockdown, even before Corona, to work from home. A bill has been passed that the employers will allow their employees to work from home, which didn't happen before.
Yes.
So I think that will happen, because the difference between the US and Manila, Metro Manila, is we have terrible traffic. Some of us spend 2 hours commuting to the office one way, and another 2 hours commuting to the house back home. So that's 4 hours wasted. And with the new reality or the new normal that will come out, I think that will be allowed more and understood that it can be done. But people would still want to go to the office, because we really need that connection.
For those people who are, that's an interesting point. So for those who are doing the 2 hours commute either way, so they're, if they're working home, they're working remotely now, they've effectively gained 4 more hours, right?
Exactly.
How does that person, like, what tips would you have for them to separate work and life? Because I can imagine a lot of people right now are trying to figure out, being at home, where does work start and where does it end? And then where does home life begin if it's not one and the same? What
Mm-hmm.
would you suggest for them?
Or if you're working in an organization and there are check-ins and check-outs, so you check in at 8:30 in the morning, you check out at 5:30 at in the afternoon, and the other times you spend, you have to spend it for yourself. So you gain 4 hours back. So if you wake up at, you leave the house at 6:30 to get to the office at 8:30, you leave the office at 5:30 to get home at 7:30, you have that 4 hours back. And it doesn't mean that you continue working. And that's what many people here do. They continue working.
Mm,
And so I tell my coaches who are leaders, don't continue working. Tell your people to spend their time wisely. What does that mean? That means turn off your laptops, talk to people in your laptops or you're in mobile, do something productive, learn something new. Um, go to podcast or listen to YouTube and listen to the orchestra playing on
yeah,
YouTube. Yeah, right. There's
yeah.
so many things now that we see that we've never seen before. So many things to learn. You just have to have the discipline to stop
I,
and think of that.
yeah, and for leadership, what a great gift you can give is to help discipline your teams by, even if they're working remotely, still give them that structure of a start and stop time, a check in and check out time. So
Mm-hmm.
they have that cue of, no more, go and take that time with your family. Or the
And
orchestra. I love the orchestra.
you've seen the orchestra, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's really really fantastic. The orchestra playing and the music playing. I had one of my batchmates in high school saying her son is one part of that orchestra that played in YouTube.
Oh, no
Um,
kidding. Really?
really, so it's really really interesting how you have to have that stop time wherein you are allow your team members to do something else, but it really takes discipline.
Yes.
So for us, for us, since we in the Philippines we have household help, We have nannies. It doesn't mean that you will continue to do work because there's household help, there's a nanny. There's time to play with their children. There's time to play board games. There's time to converse with them, converse with your spouse, help out in cooking, help
Yeah.
out in cleaning the house. So many things to do. Things
And
that we took for granted.
yeah, God, so true, right? And the worst thing we could do is just take those 4 hours and use it to sleep in or watch Netflix, but really like take it to be present with what and who matters most to you.
Oh, and read books.
Yeah.
Read books. Yeah.
Penny, right now around the world, so not everybody's on lockdown, quarantine, shelter in placing, all those things, but people are getting ready to. I know here in the US, not all the states are doing it yet, but it seems like a new one is every day. And so what that leaves is it leaves people in leadership roles scrambling to try to figure out how to prep to get ready to transition their teams to work remotely. What are some things that people, leaders can do to really prepare to make the transition as smooth as possible for their teams to transition into the new normal of working from home?
I would advise leaders to prepare their team, not just the physical location, but mentally as well. I know people are scared. To be honest with you, I am scared too. I have to conquer my fear because I always tell myself these too shall pass, and leaders have to be able to relay the same message. We're working from home because it's a must for your own safety. This is not for the company only, but this is for you. So prepare for it, prepare your staff for it mentally and physically and emotionally. Make sure that you bring home the information that you need. For some people, they don't have VPNs, or they don't have, for example, the banks. The banks, because of the privacy and security, they may not have the access to the records if you're offsite. Make sure that you have that capability, because when you're on lockdown, you may not have access to those information. So prepare, because it is coming. It will come.
What is the one thing that a leader who's getting ready to prepare to make the transition for their team remotely and they're in that prep mode, what is the one thing that they may need to know right now that they don't realize they need to know?
Um, I would say um, that what they don't know maybe is that the access of information may be at the tip of the fingers, which is may not be true.
Hmm.
So it's really have to be prepared for moving everything at the office to be accessible. Not everything in the office, but be having that accessibility for people to work as business as usual, but
Yeah,
it's business as unusual.
I like that.
Business as unusual. It's not the same.
Business as unusual. I like that. Penny, people are at home right now. Many people around the world are in that shelter in place, lockdown, quarantine, and they might not be commuting as much, right? They might have 4 more hours. So if they could use those 4 hours to listen to a podcast, what podcast would you recommend they listen to?
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to podcast of Jack, of course. So Jack Canfield, our mentor. I just listened to Jack and Patty before we went live. Um, I will listen to Simon Sinek. For leaders, I recommend Simon Sinek, not
Yeah,
just
he's great.
podcast. Simon Sinek, YouTube, and he was just talking about bring out the book, Infinite Game,
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
the Infinite Game. So if you don't read books a lot, you can just listen to Simon and learn a lot. And it's really for leaders. And I'm surprised that many of the leaders that I talk to don't even know him.
Huh, really?
Really, really,
Gosh,
who's he?
he's such a he's one of the most, I think, enjoyable orators to listen to. He's just got such a great way of communication.
Mm-hmm. And he looks like you now with a mustache and a beard.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're self-replacing. You don't have to go out anywhere. You don't have to clean it up for anyone. Book you'd recommend people read?
Um, Jack's book, Success Principles. He came out with a new one, Success Principles Workbook, which I ordered as well. One recommended book is The 5 a.m. Club
Oh yeah.
of Rob Sharma.
Mm-hmm.
And this one I haven't read, but it's highly recommended. Man's Meaning of Life, I think, by Victor
Man's Search for
Frankl.
Meaning. Man's
Search for Meaning. Yes, highly recommended as well.
Yep.
And that one I will take a look at. But right now, what I'm reading is Simon Sinek's Start with a Why.
Yeah.
Start with Why. So
and
there's a lot of books that you can read.
Movie or documentary you'd recommend people watch?
Documentary.
Or movie.
Or movie. To make me laugh, I watch on Netflix Impractical Jokers. That's a laugh. The Good Place.
Oh, that's great. That's a good one. Yeah.
The Good Place is a nice one. And don't binge on it. One episode a day. Just don't binge on it.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Everyone, whether you are in leadership or not, I think Penny shared with you some wonderful and practical wisdom about how to make that transition. And, one of the things, if you didn't hear it, it's a recurrent theme through all of our people we have coming on is the power in simplifying, but then also getting back to the human connection piece. Nearly every single workplace survey I've ever studied will often report that employees are desperately missing the connection and the touch points with the leadership and management. And the very thing that seems to be driving transitions to the new normal, so to speak, or business as unusual, I love that phrase, is making those connection points. And if you're in leadership right now, this is a powerful opportunity for you to consider, how can I connect more with my people? How can I lead, not as a title, as Robin Sharma might say, but lead as a human being that is reaching out and touching another human being, letting them know that I'm there with them. We're going through it, all 7+ billion of us around the world. And if you're not in a place yet where you're sheltering in place or quarantine, do as Penny said and prepare, because you may very well find yourself in that place 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now. And in any case of it, it never hurts to anticipate what could happen on the horizon. And what's the expression? You either prepare to fail or you fail to prepare. And this is the time now more than ever to take that little extra time in preparing. So Penny, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate so much you getting up. I know it's early for you in the Philippines, and it's so refreshing to hear you share not just what we can do as leaders to make that transition, but what also we can do as human beings to really maximize our experience in that time and maybe embrace the gift of time that working from home can give us.
I like that. Embrace the gift of time. And thank you very much for having me and inviting me over.
Yeah, thanks for coming
from
by.
The Philippines. From the Philippines,
yeah.
From Manila, Philippines. Good morning.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time for another edition of A Handful of Hope. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.